OBS, why? What? Why? Why is it like this? YouTube says I have an excellent connection. I don't see any evidence of that yet. Okay, looks like the stream is working. Let's make the encoding a bit more difficult. Okay, that, yeah, seems to be fine. Well... You vote that it's terrible. Well, I've actually kind of spoiled myself already. So I actually... We'll see. And honestly, what I've realized is, like, you can't really consider... You can't compare Elpida... like, because this is like a complete... Like, the Elpida you find on, say, an R9 290X or an R9 290 is a very different Elpida memory chip from what you would find on a GTX 980. Because GTX 980s have 4 gigs of VRAM, but only 8 memory chips. Whereas R9 290Xs and 290s have 16 memory chips and also 4 gigs of VRAM. So, yeah. Anyway, I want to, you know what, should I wait for people to, I don't know how accurate the concurrent viewers is, because I do actually kind of want to give the card a bit of an introduction as to how I ended up with it, because it's a bit, like, I thought I was going to be repairing this thing, like, I thought I was going to be reballing memory chips for it, so, I'm not sure... Didn't really think this through, because, like... Yeah, like... I do want to give the card like, a bit of an introduction, I guess. Because it's like, it didn't arrive in a condition bad enough to justify, like, a full video of, like, oh, I had to, like, fix everything. But it did arrive in a condition which was, like, kind of questionable. And I don't really feel like reintroducing it later into the stream. Then again, like, one of my favorite things about YouTube live streams is you can just, like, you know, go to the beginning and play it at 2x speed to catch up to wherever the live stream. Like, if you show up late, you can just do that. Oh, great. What is the FPS king for 500 hertz monitor? How should I know? A 4090 probably? Like, I daily a 144 hertz ultra wide, and I can barely tell the difference between 75 hertz and 144. Or, no, like, telling the difference is not the issue. I just don't know what all the hype is about. It's like, yep, it's smoother. And... it's not like going from 30 to 60 FPS, where at 30, like, you can't act, like, you just can't play, because there's just not enough information being presented. in competitive games. Sure, whatever. Like I don't play any of the like popular FPS games because I find them incredibly dull. Um, and I'm pretty sure people were like playing well, I don't know what they play competitive Quake on. But like I play arena shooters and quite frankly going from 75 to 144 hertz really didn't do anything for me. Um yeah, like it's like yep, it's smoother, but like my aim didn't change or anything. I still can't track anything worth a damn. I guess it's mainly because I've always relied on just like explosive spam in arena shooters. Anyway, I guess we'll just start with an introduction to the card. So yeah, I was on eBay, as I tend to be. What? No, we're not doing Intel DDR5. Intel can go take all their defective silicon and like underclock it, I guess, for stability. Anyway, um, so yeah, I was on eBay as I tend to do, and I stumbled across a GTX 980 Hall of Fame that was like 20 quid because no worky worky. It was like untested, buy at your own risk type listing. And yeah, it basically maxed out at like 20 quid. And I want it, as you can tell, because I have it. Um, and yeah, and it arrived surprisingly clean, smells a bit funky, um, and a bit bendy, as you can see. But this isn't the worst of it. Like bent PCIe brackets, this is not a functional component of the card. It's just some random piece of metal. Um, honestly, I never really understood why this even exists. Like in most cases, there isn't even like it doesn't really like you have the screw on this end of the bracket, right? That's usually what supports all of the weight. So this part right here, I actually don't really understand why that exists. But anyway, it exists and it gets bent a lot. So yeah. Um, so from this angle, not too bad. From the back, yep, this is pretty bent. Um, and from the side, oh boy. The photo makes it look less bad. I think there's like some lens distortion making it look more straight than it actually is. But this thing's bent, like very bent. Um, and yeah, the photo doesn't do it justice. I tried, but like this thing is extremely curved. When I saw this, I was like, man, I am going to be replacing memory chips because this is so bent. It even has a crack in the PCB, right? So I was like, oh, I'm gonna finally get to try repair a cracked PCB. And other than that, the previous owner apparently doesn't know the difference between thermal putty and thermal paste. So this is a thing that they did, which was extremely effective at actually covering the power stages and very fun to clean. Yeah, this stuff does not like really react to soap. Like this thermal paste, like some thermal pastes, like with dish soap, they come off really easy. This doesn't. The only thing that would reliably dissolve this thermal paste was isopropyl alcohol. So that was fun, just like scrubbing the card down with alcohol to get all of the thermal paste off of the power stages. I did eventually clean it up, and then as the like disassembly went on, I get the worst surprise of them all of like, oh, it's Elpida. Right? And Elpida memory, in my experience, garbage. Trash. Every like Elpida card, yeah, every Elpida card I've ever had, the memory clocks like trash. I've already spoiled myself a little bit with this card because the thing is, like, I didn't like when I saw the Elpida memory chips, it was like, not only am I going to be replacing the memory chips because of like cracked solder balls because the card is bent, or not even cracked solder balls, like ripped pads potentially. I'm going to be replacing all of the memory chips because they Elpida. Funnily enough, the card actually works. Yep. I mean, yeah, it doesn't really look that bad in the photo, but like this incredibly bent card actually works. And I think the main reason it works is the bend actually kind of avoids, like the worst of the bending is like in this area, right? And you'll notice that this area has no memory chips in it. So that's probably why it still works. Because yeah, if it was bent anywhere, like, I guess also this memory chip's pretty far away from the PCIe slot. That's the upside to having a GTX 980, I guess, is that also the card is really tall, so they like, I think they might have moved the core up a bit compared to like a regular 980. Because yeah, if you have a card where there's memory chips down here and the PCIe slot has a crack in it, then it's just like, yep, those memory chips are probably broken too. That's actually a big problem with a lot of R9 290s is like the memory chips down in this corner tend to fail. And like R9 290Xs as well. But yeah, this thing just works. Like I cleaned it. I tried to unbend it a little bit because obviously after cleaning it, it was on the hot plate to dry out. So once it was up to like, once the card was really hot, I decided, hey, you know, like once the PCB's warmed up, it gets a bit more flexible. So I tried like leveling out the card a bit because honestly, it was so bent that it like doesn't like it didn't look like it would go into a PCIe slot anymore. It didn't really like my unbending attempt. What didn't really help the curve that much, but yeah, it works. So today we shall see how far the Elpida memory chips go. They do go to at least 2 gigahertz. I checked that much already because, like, if it didn't do 2 gigahertz, that would just be a disaster, right? Like, if you have a 900 series card where the memory won't do 2 gigahertz, like, you may as well just throw it in the bin or, like, learn to replace memory chips because that is a disaster. So, yeah. Anyway, also, since this is a Hall of Fame, the Hall of Fame NVDD tools should work. I'm not sure which one will work, but one of them should. That says NVDD all. I think this one's actually... Wait, how far... Yeah, no, this one looks like it just uses the same core voltage offset functionality that, like, Afterburner has. So this is This is bad. Yeah, this doesn't look very useful. We will just start with Afterburner initially. And some 3D Mark. Fire Strike. I didn't bother putting the memory heatsink back on again because I haven't cleaned it yet, so we need to run the fans a bit higher just so the memory gets cooled. Also, I don't like sitting in a quiet room, so now that the intro's over... okay, that's going to be really loud, I think. Oh. There we go. And of course, we're just going to run Fire Strike. It's my favorite benchmark. I'm going to go with the full suite. Yeah, okay, let's just start at, like, all stock. Oh, wait, I have system info turned off. New... Unify X is not working for 50. Turns out the problem was thermal paste in the CPU socket. That's luck. But yeah, this is kind of lucky, I guess. Better than bent pins. What's the best Z790 DDR5 board for around $350? I don't know. Like, go ask somebody who actually likes Intel CPUs, because I don't. Hall of Fame with Elpida? Yep. I have a GTX 780 Hall of Fame with Elpida, and that thing is depressing. The memory on it stops at like 1700. The Apex Encore is not 350 US. Like that's my main experience with Elpida memory chips is that they I'm not, are these 4 gigabit? I'm not sure what the density is. But the ones that you get on, like, say, a HD 7870, HD 7970, 290, 290X, I think those are 2 gigabit, right? Because 2 gigabit times... No, 1 gigabit. Because 16... No. 4? I will use the calculator. Because, okay, so a HD 7870 has 2 gigs of memory. And it has 8 memory chips. Yeah, so they're 2 gigabit. Yeah, because 8 mem chips, 8 2 gigabit mem chips is 16 gigabits total, divided by 8 is 2 gigabytes. Yeah, so so 2 gigabit Elpida is like my main experience with Elpida memory chips, and 2 gigabit Elpida, garbage. This is 4 gigabit Elpida. So yeah, maybe I should be less harsh. Funnily enough, like the Micron on R9, no, not on R9s, RX 580s, the Micron memory chips on those are insane. The 8 gigabit, yeah, 8 gigabit Micron is like ridiculously good. Actually, also on 1070s, like it clocks insanely high in certain scenarios. Why the music? I don't like sitting in a quiet room. Also, it shouldn't be that loud. Okay, so initial score 14,771. I already have the power limit maxed out. Oh, I didn't watch the temperatures. The heatsink on this thing is freaking massive. I guess we'll just start pushing the memory. So we'll start with like plus 500. So that's kind of where I stopped last time, was just like around 2 gigahertz. I think the issue with my bleepy bloops is that I run them through too much distortion for most people's taste. I would like to get some good scores if possible with this card. Or like, not like, oh, I'm gonna bend over backwards, but like, I'd like to see some decent results out of it. I also really want to measure it with the oscilloscope, but like, that's mostly for like a reference against the GTX 970 that I have. Because yeah, the power delivery on the Hall of Fames is always just amazing. Why you use Zen 4 instead of Bintel? Because Bintel is Bintel. Like, the last time I tried to do a GPU overclocking stream with an Intel system, the Intel system just refused to initialize the GPU. And then I moved the GPU to some random AM5 motherboard, and what you look at that, it boots. And that was the end of me using Intel. The last thing I need. Like, that's already annoying enough with modern platforms is that they don't always want to, like, initialize the old GPUs that I pull out, but that was a Vega. It's not even old. And it just didn't initialize on an Intel system. So it's like, well, no more. Actually, I don't think that... I'm not even sure why that happened, and it's not like a specific thing, but like, I just don't like the freaking 14900K. Or the 13900KS that I have. Like, the whole, like, the freaking E-cores and just the memory control, everything about it. Like, like, X99 was... The memory controller on X99, or even X299, is also horrible. But at least they don't have E-cores. Especially the X99 memory controller is absolute garbage. But like I still, but I like those CPUs. I do not like 14th gen. Or 13, well... Yeah, 14th gen especially is just like, man... Why? Why did they have to overclock the 13900K more? Jet engine levels of fan noise? No. I haven't set the fans to 100% yet. Why are motherboard prices up so much? Because they're not produced anymore. That's usually what causes the prices to go up. Also, what's kind of crazy with this card is out of the box, it runs at 1417 megahertz. I think a stock GTX 980 is, well, let's just check tech power up, right? The thing with the stock GTX 980 is that it does have a crappy blower heatsink. So that kind of... Yeah. Temperatures and clock profiles. Yeah, so it normally runs at like 1253, average of 1209. That's probably because it hits the power or thermal limit out of the box. Oh wait, median is 1240. So it probably spends more time at 1240 than... yeah, that's like the thing I find really funny with Maxwell cards is like, if you look at NVIDIA's... Or the thing that annoys me about Maxwell cards and how like they have a reputation for having like crazy overclocking headroom when it's like they don't. Like sure, NVIDIA is like, oh yeah, the core clock is like 1126 plus. And then in reality it's like, nah, the actual core clock is like 1200 plus. Right? And so you'd get somebody who's like, oh, my 980 does like 1500. It's like 400 megahertz more than stock. And it's like, nah, it's more like 300 more than stock. Which is still way better than anything modern. Like, modern GPUs have way less headroom. But compared to like some older cards, it's really not that much headroom. Like a GTX 480 has more overclocking headroom than Maxwell, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure a GTX 480 is more overclockable than the average Maxwell GPU. And then, like, HD 7950s are actually just ridiculous. Mostly because AMD just clocked them way too low. But, yeah, so if you want overclocking headroom, HD 7950s, because out of the box they were like 800 megahertz, and overclocked they do 1200 plus. Are LLC important limit to adjust using negative CO offset for 7800X3Ds? I would generally just not do anything with a 7800X3D. Like, at all. That's what I do with mine. Like, I did briefly run an ECLK overclock, but Gigabyte's janky BIOS makes running ECLK overclocks kind of a pain. So I've ditched the ECLK overclock because, like, if the board ever like mistrains the memory, the ECLK overclock causes a whole bunch of issues. And then for like any like PBO adjustment, it's like I think it's a total waste of time. Because it doesn't, like, the performance basically doesn't change. And the only, like, yeah, the temperature comes down, but it's like the CPU doesn't run hot in the first place. So I really fail to see the point of, you know, risking instability for the sake of lower temperatures when you're like, if it was like, oh, at least the performance is higher, but like, it really isn't. Right? And the thing with the PBO tuning is that, like, you get, like, that's where you get the, like, oh, my system isn't stable at, like, idle, or it, like, crashes when opening a web browser, or, like, I can't use Windows Explorer because it randomly crashes. It's like, it's because of PBO. Because if you run, like, an all-core stress test, the way AMD's boost, like, stock voltage curve is set up, there's a lot more headroom at 100% load than there is at 0. So at, like, 1% load, the margin for, like, undervolting is a lot smaller than at 100%. And it makes it really difficult to test for, like, for instability, because you're probably going to be unstable at, like, not 100% load, right? So even if you max out, like, individual cores, that's still not going to tell you how stable that core is at 50% load. So, yeah, and I'm not aware of, like, a good way of testing that, and the only, like, even if you're using, like, Core Cycler or something, as far as I know, it isn't 100% accurate, and it is extremely tedious. So you spend all this time to gain, like, basically no performance, maybe make your system unstable. Like, you're basically doing what the Intel motherboard manufacturers do, right? Like, there's... It's like, yeah, if we just lower the AC load line a bit more, it'll make 5% of Intel CPUs crash. AMD Polaris cards Elpida usually don't work up to 1900, 1930. Nah, PPT on the 7800X3D does basically nothing. Because the CPU is never power limited. Like, the stock power limit is over 100 watts, and the CPU runs out of voltage at, like, 80. Like, literally, it will hit the voltage limit at, like, 80 watts. And so if you undervolt, you'll actually get, like, maybe 4% more performance in really heavy or all-core loads like LinPack. That's at least been my experience. Like, the biggest performance gain I saw from undervolting was LinPack. And then it was, like, Firestrike physics. Not the GPU tests, just the physics test. And Firestrike was less than LinPack. So LinPack would actually pick up some performance because LinPack runs, like, insanely hot. And it has the biggest, like, voltage, like, safety margin out of the box, right? Because it's, like, as 100% load as 100% load gets. But yeah, like I tested, like, single-threaded, 4-threaded, 8-threaded Cinebench. Those basically didn't change. Those were, like, 1% performance gains at best. The single-threaded literally didn't change at all. So if you're thinking, like, oh, I'm going to tune PBO for more single-core performance, nah, you won't, because it doesn't change. Yeah, like, even, like, all-core Cinebench was, like, not gaining very much. It was, like, maybe 3%, if I remember correctly. I might be misremembering. Like, I did a video on, like, you know, all the different tuning I tried with my 7800X3D, and the only thing I found that, like, actually made more performance was raising the ECLK. But the problem with that is, like, you kind of... Because you can't raise the operating voltage, you kind of very quickly run into similar issues as with PBO, where you start having, like, single core, like, light load crashes before you get, like, multi-core crashes. Though that only really starts happening above 104 BCLK in my experience. So, like, like with my CPU, what I did try to do was I was dailying like 103.3 BCLK or ECLK. Not BCLK, but ECLK. But the issue is I have a gigabyte motherboard. If the like getting that ECLK overclock set up, there's like a procedure that you need to go through, and Ryzen motherboards will sometimes mistrain the memory. And I think it might actually be more likely if you have an ECLK overclock, or it might just bug out. I'm not sure. But yeah, basically one day, my system, like, I restarted my system for, I think, a Windows update, and then it wouldn't want to start. Because basically the ECLK overclock with Gigabyte's BIOS broke. So then I decided, you know what? I am not bothering with a 3% overclock when it randomly causes the system to be like, well, I mean, that happened after I think like 4 months of runtime or something that I ended up in that situation. So it wasn't like it didn't like, I don't know how often it would happen, but it was like, man, am I really going to run a 3% overclock that randomly doesn't let the system boot? Nah, I'm not. So yeah, that's kind of the, in a way, really nice and kind of sad about the X3D CPUs is like, out of the box, they are within 5% of peak performance. If you bend over backwards, you might be able to make it go 5% faster, but you will have to bend over backwards. So I hope you like bending over backwards. And in my case, I just was like, and 5% is like really high as far as I'm concerned. Like that is huge for an X3D. Because I couldn't get, I don't think I got 5% ever. Maybe with ECLK in like one very specific scenario. Oh yeah, 105 ECLK, no, 107 ECLK, which this was crazy unstable, literally at the limits. That gained 7% in the Firestrike CPU test, 4% in single-threaded Cinebench, 6% in Cinebench all-core, 5% in all-core Linpack, yeah, and like 4% in Geekbench, 7% in TimeSpy CPU test. So like that actually was like, you know, 7% faster in some scenarios, and like 4% for even like single-threaded Cinebench. Only 2.5% for Geekbench 3 single-threaded. And also it was horribly unstable, and it needed like +8 curve optimizer, and it wasn't stable. Like it was like the issue when you push the ECLK that high is that you actually need like more and more positive curve offset. But the more positive curve offset you run, the less performance gain you get. So like basically you end up with this like, oh, I have this setup that's like not, you know, it's fast, but not stable. And then you start fixing the stability and it gets slower. So you're just like horrible waste of time. Like, I think if AMD, like, removed the core clock and, like, core voltage restrictions, then maybe there'd be more room for tuning the 7800X3D, but also you'd have a lot more room to accidentally blow the CPU up, right? I think Der Bauer had a video showing how he, like, basically insta-killed a 7800X3D with, like, 1.35 volts or something. Like, yeah, I don't think he had to push it very hard, and it broke pretty quickly. So, 2052 on the memory. This is really not bad. Like, this is stock memory voltage. And it's like well over 2 gigahertz. It's Elpida. Killed a 7800X 3D at 1.35. Yeah, so like that's the issue, is like on it, like the thing is, even the regular Ryzens don't scale to like 1.3 in my experience, so like well, it depends on the workload, but they don't scale to that high voltages for all core, so I don't see that as like a super useful like, I wouldn't, like, I don't think if I was daily tuning a 7800X 3D, I would even care about being able to go to 1.35. But even having the ability to just, like, set it to maybe, like, 1.22 or, you know, just a bit higher, but then I don't know, like, you know, AMD probably has a lot of, like, data on, like, how these CPUs degrade, and obviously, they're going to err on the side of caution with a retail product, unlike a certain blue company who just actually doesn't care. Would the would the 970 Hall of Fame have the same memory? I don't know. My 980 Ti Hall of Fame has Hynix. And the 970, I don't have a 970 Hall of Fame. Like, I would assume, I was expecting, like, SK Hynix, to be completely honest. Because, like, as far as I know, for 900 series, like, Samsung was, like, EVGA very consistently has Samsung, but EVGA also very consistently has god-awful PCBs, so, yay. It's like, you can get, like, oh yeah, you can get a GTX 970 FTW from EVGA with a garbage 6-phase VRM that blows up and Samsung memory. Yay! Or you can get a GTX 970 from EVGA with a even more garbage 4-phase VRM that blows up and Samsung memory. Though I think the FTW is actually worse, because the two FTWs that I've had where the vCore VRM blew up, it also disabled a bunch of, like, small signals running around the PCB that allow the card to run. So you have to, like repairing that is a massive pain, because it burns a bunch of, like, data lines, basically. Not for the memory. What, Hoff with Hynix? That's normal. As far as I know, like, all of the 980 Ti Hall of Fames, the LN2 cards are Hynix. Because, like, EVGA, like, the Matrix 980 Ti's are all Hynix. Like, almost all of them are Hynix. As far as I know, there was, like, a weird thing where, like, EVGA had almost exclusive access to Samsung memory. So, like, Lightning 980 Ti, Hynix. Hall of Fame 980 Ti, Hynix. Matrix 980 Ti, Hynix. Like, 90% of non-EVGA and non-reference NVIDIA cards are Hynix, or in this case, Elpida, apparently. And then you have, like, EVGA cards, which are basically always Samsung, as far as I can tell. I've never seen one with anything other than Samsung. And then, yeah, but, like, Matrix cards, like, they're Hynix. They're very regularly Hynix. And then, I didn't even know they made 980s with Elpida. I'm just happy it doesn't suck massively. I was expecting it to be really bad. Yeah, like, this would support Samsung 4 gigabit. So, like, theoretically, you could buy, like, some dead EVGA cards and just pull the Samsung memory chips off of those. I don't really feel like reballing 8 memory chips, though. Ooh, this thing has a really high power limit out of the box. The ASIC quality on this thing isn't amazing, unfortunately. It's only 76.5%. Yeah, the memory seems pretty solid so far. So let's keep going. Like, I want to see where the memory maxes out on its own, and then, like the score isn't really scaling at this point, but... Honestly, I think GTX 980s might be, like, not... Yeah, may not... Actually, no, the 960... Wait, the 960 has a smaller memory bus. So not relevant. Maybe the Elpida memory chips have, like, trash timings or something? G5X pin compatible? Is it? Yeah, that's total system power draw. Is LLC worth it on OC anymore? Yeah, like, if you're doing static overclocks, you definitely want to tune it. With PBO, so with PBO, it does weird things. Because what I know, I can't say I really noticed it changing the stability, but I did notice it affecting, like, Cinebench scores. Like, if you used... Yeah, I think with higher LLCs, it was getting, like, better scores. If I remember correctly. What is the core clock? Right now it's running 1417, which is the stock clock for this thing. The difference between CPU SATA and chipset SATA? Is there a difference? I guess the chipset SATA might be a bit slower, maybe? I don't know. I don't really pay attention to storage. High V-Core on newer... on a 7800X 3D, no, because the current draw is very low. And actually, I think just generally it probably isn't a concern. Like, having, like... The thing is, a lot of people when, you know, like, when you see the oscilloscope videos that I've made, and you see the overshoot, it's like, it really doesn't matter as much as the average voltage. As far as as far as I'm concerned and as far as I'm aware, the overshoot is basically irrelevant. It just kind of looks ugly unless it's getting really, really ridiculously high. So the main concern is usually the undershoot and how it affects stability. But if you're on PBO, like, or not even on PBO, if you're on the stock boost algorithm from AMD, it has clock stretching built in. Like, the stock load lines for AMD CPUs are incredibly aggressive. Also, this thing seems to be able to do, like, 2100 out of the box, which is kind of insane. Yeah, this is going to be 2103 on the memory with, like, stock voltage. I don't know. It might not scale with voltage. Who knows? If this was Samsung, I'd be like, oh my god, this will do like 2200 on voltage, but no, it's Elpida, so I don't know what it'll do. Thinking of buying a B650M HDV and a 7800X 3D. Could I actually OC the CPU with this Mobo? It doesn't have ECLK, so no. Like, you can play with PBO, but like I mentioned earlier in the stream, I think PBO is a total waste of time on the 7800X 3D. If you want ECLK overclocking, the cheapest motherboard you can get with ECLK support is the B650 Taichi Lite from ASRock. And that thing is like twice the price of the HDV. And performance-wise, it's really not going to be much faster. Z5 Neo 6000 CL30 or Ares 6200 CL 6400 CL32. heard 6400 will be new standard for Ryzen 9000. I would not be surprised if Ryzen 9000 used exactly the same I/O die as Ryzen 7000 and some chips were so bad that they max out at 6000. Like, both of those are going to be Hynix memory sticks. So, worst case scenario, you can just manually overclock the Tridents to 6400. Whereas if you buy the 6400 rated kit, and then your CPU just isn't able to run it, you know, you're basically going to end up in the same scenario as manually overclocking the G-Skill kit, except it'll be manually underclocking the Ares kit. So, you know. Man, I'm really surprised that it is like it's not even artifacting or anything. Like on AMD GPUs, I mean, I've never seen an R9 390 with Elpida, which would be these Elpida memory chips. So this is BABG, 4 gigabit. Yeah. Yeah, this is BABG, whereas the R9 290s and 290Xs, those are BBBG, so like B-die, I guess, in the Elpida naming convention, 2 gigabit, and those suck massively. And I think the 7870s are the same Elpida dies. Which team group? I don't have any team group DDR5, do I? What's the limit of H16A dual rank kits? I've seen some people manage like well over 7,000 with them, but it like really depends on the CPU, and with Ryzen I think you actually need to manually set a bunch of the terminations and drive strengths. Unless maybe the gene does it for you, I'm not sure. And with Intel, yeah, basically 7,000 is probably gonna... Like, I would assume... Okay, well, depends how much effort you want to put into it. If you don't want to put a lot of effort into it, 6600. If you want to put a lot of effort into it, 7,000 plus. It's also worth noting that dual-rank DDR5 has basically no performance benefit over single-rank DDR5. So if all you care about is performance, single-rank DDR5 is better. Because it clocks higher. Unless you're on Ryzen, because you can run dual-rank and single-rank on Ryzen at basically the same speed for one-to-one mode. Oh, I think we're finally getting some artifacting. At 2120. Man, that is like... That is really high. I guess maybe Galax might be juicing the memory voltage right out of the box, because there are some cards that'll actually like default to like 1.6 or 1.65 volts sometimes. Well, they aren't. It runs at 1.55. That's insane. That's actually crazy. How it clocks this high, I have no idea. I mean, admittedly, I don't think I've ever actually, like, encountered this memory chip before, so maybe this is... Maybe Elpida is just good? Maybe the timings suck, though. Like, that's the thing. It's impossible to know. And I don't know how to read NVIDIA timings, so... Yeah, so that passed at 2121. Man, that is insane. Also, the combined is, like, way up. For some reason, the combined test is, like, super memory bottlenecked. I guess plus 759, I guess. We're going really slowly, but, like, I want to, you know, like, I don't want to just, like, jump to a frequency that insta-crashes. If anyone who isn't experienced in OC and gets Intel, I generally tell them to run 6400 XMP. For 64 gigs and 96 gigs, that's fine, but for, like, more than that, like 128, that's probably not going to work a lot of the time. Though I don't, you know, like, I haven't tested quad rank memory setups myself. Oh, okay, now it's finally starting to artifact, but it's still not doing that bad. What would be really sad is if it turned out that these memory chips absolutely hate getting cold. Because that's actually really, or not really common, but it is relatively common that there's, like, memory chips where it's like they get cold and they just stop working. Yeah, okay, this test is more memory intensive, and so, oh, it finally crashed. Okay, so 2130. Man. That is, like, that is really good. That is better than what I would expect most Samsung cards to do on stock voltage. I don't know if it performs better than a stock Samsung card, like, stock voltage Samsung card, but, like, clock speed, it, like... It's higher. Now, I should have working memory voltage control with this. Wait, not this. This. Okay, it's complaining about NVDD, which is the core voltage, not... I don't think that's memory. Yeah, I was still reading. Okay, I guess that's why. Oh? Oh, man, why? It says failed. I'm assuming it just failed to set the core voltage and the memory voltage still worked. Also, one thing I really wish was a thing is anti-tangle multimeter probes. Because I don't know how I do this, but every time I grab the multimeter, the probes are just, like, twisted together. Okay, the memory voltage control definitely works. We're gonna start with just, like, we're gonna start with stock. Man, I'm surprised that HOF NVDD doesn't work. Does classified not? Because this should just be a CHL8318, so like... Like, the Hall of Fame tool should work for this controller. Where's that USB stick? Okay, there it is. Utility, because, yeah, like... Okay, I think that's the same thing as the one I already have. Wait. Yeah, they're the same size, so that's going to be the same thing. I have classified. This might work? This might also be a terrible idea. Okay, that did not work. It does not set the core voltage. Oh, that's cool. That's interesting, though, because I would have thought, like, this being a 8318, that this wouldn't be an issue. I mean, worst case scenario, I could use the Elmore EVC2. And GPU-Z is seemingly very not measuring the voltage correctly. The power draw is up. Ooh boy, this thing is the big jank. So we're at 1.3 right now. Oh yeah. Wait, how do I reset this? I can't be accurate. Oh wait, no, wait. It might be if they're using an external controller. I didn't really pay that much attention to what's on the card. And the photos I have don't have enough detail, so that's not helping. Apparently it is at 1.25-ish. Okay, so I'm going to close this. We're going to restart the system because I want to reset the voltage controller completely, and I want to see what it measures like bone stock. Would I prefer two Arctic P12s on a GPU? That is literally what's cooling my 4070 Ti. I have two P12 Maxes on my 4070 Ti. Is it worth bothering stabilizing FCLK above 2000 and 6400? At 6400, I'd be aiming for 2133 FCLK. And at 1.25 SoC, there's a decent chance that'll actually work on the latest AGSAs. It's not going to be like a huge performance boost, but it is going to be a bit faster. And it should be easier to verify the stability of that than like a PBO overclock. Because like you're at 2000, if you're at 6400 on the memory and 2000 on the FCLK, like it's just like it's as desynced as it could be. So even like 2033 or 2066 or 2100 FCLK is actually going to be faster than 2000 FCLK, right? But optimally, you'd want to be at 2133 because there's some kind of like scheduling optimization at 2 to 3. I mean, the main reason I bought the P12 Maxes is because they go up to like 3000 RPM or something. I don't use them at that. I think I have them set to like 1700 for my 4070 Ti, and they just sit at that all day because I have a pretty high noise tolerance. Because, yeah, I just do. I don't really like being in very quiet rooms, so... Anyway, let's see what the core voltages are. Now, the one thing is that right now I'm just measuring the core voltage using the, like... There's, like, voltage read points on the PCB. You can't see them, but yeah, I'm just measuring off of the voltage read points. And those on a lot of cards are wired to just, like, the middle of the power plane, so they read super high. Or, like, basically to the output of the inductors, so they'll read, like, way high on a lot of GPUs. So I don't know how accurate that is, but we can check. Like, I can do a core measurement versus the read point. Also, I'm, like, referencing my ground from the DVI port right now. Yeah, okay, so this measurement method just measures super high, because it's reading 1.27 right now, which is, I think that might be power plane voltage drop getting in the way. Also, my ground is like a mile away from where it should be. Okay, so apparently this card does run at like 1.25 out of the box. I mean, I was still referencing the ground wrong, but that voltage read point is not that far off from what's behind the core. Yeah, it actually just runs at like 1.25 volts. That's really funky because it says 1.21 in GPU-Z, and it like it's like they have a 50 millivolt offset out of the box, or maybe I just didn't reset it hard enough. .5 on a 3900X is, like, good. Wait, what voltage did you use for that, and what did you stress test it with? Or is that just, like, a Cinebench run? That's a fully drained power for it to reset properly. That's weird, because it should just require a 3.3 volt cut. Oh, 1.42 volts. I'm assuming that was just for benching then, right? Or did you actually daily it at that? Because if you dailied it at that, how the hell did you cool it? Yeah, it didn't reset the first time. So the reason it didn't reset is I'm assuming... So the way the VRM controllers usually work is, well, digital VRM controllers usually work, is if you write to them, like you write something to their registers, that's why they're called digital, because you can just tell them, hey, I want 50 millivolts offset, and there's like a register for offset voltage. Those registers usually don't get cleared until you cut the power supply for the voltage controller, and usually they'll just run off of the 3.3 volts or 5 volts. And so basically, if you don't, like, if the power supply, like, if 3.3 volts doesn't get interrupted, like at all, or for long enough, the registers don't clear and your offset voltage is still there. So I have it now actually reset, and it's now running at 1.21. Probably. I mean, I measured off of the read point, and the read point seems to be off by 20 millivolts. Give me a second. Yeah, it's off by like 10 millivolts, something like that. Because, yeah, it doesn't make sense that the core voltage would be 50 millivolts above what GPUZ says it's at. I guess we could also try the core voltage select. Oh, man, it doesn't go very far. Smash those. At least the card comes with, like, a reasonably high power limit out of the box. So where were we? I think we were at, like, 739 on the MEM. And then I guess we'll try, like, plus... because this card starts at, like, 1400, so we'll start at, like, plus 50. What's the power consumption like on a 5700X 3D? I'm pretty sure it's lower, but I never had a 5700X, so... Like 6220 36 or 6400 30 37. I mean, if you can run 6400 30 37, you should run 6400 30 37. It's just better. Like, the reason this is set up at 6200 right now is because it doesn't do 6400. So now I'm kind of tempted to measure the voltage while it's running. Man, I really wish... Like, the funny thing is there are even GPUs with break... Actually, it doesn't really matter that much. Yeah, like, the thing is there's, like, a bunch of GPUs that'll have, like, breakout cables for, like, hooking up the multimeter more conveniently than what I'm gonna do, which is just stab the DVI port again. Because, yeah, that is by far the most convenient way of getting a ground. But the thing is, like, even the cards with the breakout cables, they will often have the, like, voltage readings referenced to, like, random places on the power plane. So the voltage reading that you get from the read points is often way higher than what the actual silicon is getting. Well, I thought it would start faster. Man, system info. The necessity for the benchmarks to be valid. But And I wish it was faster. Yeah, it basically runs at like 1.2 volts out of the box. Oh, that's good to know. $7600 or 5700X3D? For a new build, I'd say the 7600 just because you'll have the option to, like, there's a decent chance that 7800X3Ds will one day be incredibly cheap, right? And the 7600 is not much like, it's about the same as a 5700X3D, though it really depends on the game, right? Like, some things really favor clock speed, some things really favor the extra cache. Also, if you're on the 7600, you definitely want to get fast memory, because Ryzen 7000's memory controller is horrifically inefficient. So if you have slow RAM, your Ryzen CPU is much slower than if you have fast RAM. That's like why AMD sends out to the, like, as part of the review kit, AMD sent out 6000 CL30 rated memory sticks. Now, you don't need 6000 CL30, but you do want, like, you don't want to be running a 7600 with DDR5 4800. Or 5200. Yeah, like, if you're looking for good AM4, if you're building an all-new system, then the motherboard and memory cost is not that different, and with the 7600, I think the 7600 might actually be a bit cheaper, isn't it? But anyway, with the 7600, sometime in the future you might be able to upgrade to like you might want to upgrade to like a 9800X3D or a 7800X3D, and it's going to be like, it's not going to require an entire system swap, right? Anyway. So that just ran. That's cool. Let's try plus 86. That's where I think I previously stopped with this card. 7500F is 129 and 7700 is 179. Damn. Oh, 5700X3D is 155. Really? Wasn't it like over... How much did I... When did it get so cheap? I don't remember it being that cheap. Yeah, it's still 200 quid here. Where are you getting 5700X3Ds for fucking 155? Oh, AliExpress. Where is AliExpress getting them? Did they rob a fucking truck? There was a shipment of 5700X3Ds and they just stole them all? Like, where are they getting them that cheap? That's a good way to get a relidded Core 2 Duo. Yeah. Like, that's so low. That price is so low is that it doesn't make sense. Because even tray CPUs, as far as I know, aren't that cheap. Any point to use an Epic for a home use stream PC? What kind of streaming are we talking about here? Because, like, I do all of my streaming using the 7800X 3D. And it seems to do it just fine. And it's got, like, no cores by modern CPU standards. RTX 4070 has 7800 XT. Well, if you like software features, NVIDIA has more software features. If you just want rasterization performance, the 7800 XT is a bit faster. Isn't it? Yeah, it's like a smidge faster. So honestly, if the 4070 is the same price, I'd probably take the 4070. If the 7800 XT is like a lot cheaper, then I guess I'd take the 7800 XT. I don't know what your prices are like. Oh, no. Ooh, 16K GPU score. This is the best score so far, isn't it? And we're just over 1503 on the core. I wonder if I just smash the voltage slider, what that's going to do. Because on some NVIDIA, on 900 series, that can sometimes just boost the score even if you don't touch the clock speed. And sometimes it does nothing. $7,800 XT is like 50 USD cheaper. It depends how much you prefer. Like, if you prefer NVIDIA's drivers to AMD's drivers, you can take NVIDIA. Like, I don't feel strongly either way about these. That physics score isn't even good. A 5950X can get like 44,000. That's like my biggest disappointment with the Ryzen 7000 series is like the 7950X massively underperforms in Firestrike. In TimeSpy, the performance, like, it's not great compared to 14th gen or 13th gen, but at least it makes sense. But compared to, like, the 7950X compared to a 5950X in Firestrike does not look good. Because it's like, it's like 10% faster or something. Not, yeah, basically 10. Which is like, you would think, like, everywhere else, it's like way faster. Like TimeSpy, it's like 20% almost. Vantage, it's like 20%. And then you get to Firestrike, and it's 10% faster, and it's like, what? Why? Literally everything else is like 20% faster, and then Firestrike is just a disaster. A 4900K gets like 55,000 points at stock. So, and Firestrike is my favorite benchmark, so like I am extremely disappointed. That's like the main thing. Like my biggest hope for Ryzen 9000 series is that the 9950X gets over 60,000 points in Firestrike. Which is a lot, right? Like that's a big jump. But like, why is it so bad at it? Because if the 7950X scaled in Firestrike like it scales everywhere else, it should be hitting like over 50,000 comfortably, and it's like this is on a manual overclock. Like this isn't even stock boost, and it's just like, ugh. What mem speed are we at? 2120. Oh man, I keep forgetting. You'd think at this point I would have just removed the first part of that album. Well, Time Spy is like heavy on the AVX instruction, so it's basically a memory benchmark. I think it's a bit faster than last time. I want to see what kind of scores like I'm supposed to be aiming for with this thing. Let's go to hardware bot. Are you kidding? Oh wait. Please don't tell me hardware bot is down. No, it isn't. GTX 980. Man. I wonder what memory he had on that. Samsung. Anyway, okay, well, I'm not going to be getting anything in the... Oh man, the GTX 5... Yeah, the 980 is so competitive. Everyone and their mom ran it on liquid nitrogen. 1832 on water? What kind of water cooling is this? This is gonna be some, like, massive chiller, I bet. Yeah, because there's, like, a cascade phase change over here. This is on a chiller. Yeah, that makes sense. Liquid nitrogen. 1645 on air? Oh. I guess they took the system outside. Also, yeah, see, 13900K, 60,000 points. But that's at 6.1 gigahertz. My 13900K does not do that. Well, I guess maybe if I was, you know, if it was this cold outside, maybe it would, but not in current weather. Okay, so I should be aiming over 16,000 points, I think. I think that's realistic. We have like a 1552, 1515. Right, so we don't need like this doesn't require any kind of crazy core clocks or anything. At least it doesn't look like it requires any crazy core clocks. Yeah, we don't, it does, wait. 3320, oh man, 2200 mem. Wait, this is a classy, isn't it? Oh yeah, it's an EVGA, so that's probably a classified card. Man, 980 Ti, I mean, 980 rankings are like more competitive than the 980 Ti rankings, I think. I guess maybe the 980, it's like harder to hard carry the overall score with your overpowered CPU compared to the 980 Ti. Now, that doesn't make sense, because 980 Ti's have even bigger GPU scores. So, like, the overpowered... Wait, no. For Firestrike, actually, that would work. Anyway, goal over 16,000. I keep switching to the wrong scene. So we're pretty far from that. But the thing is, for hardware bot, we're going to be turning on, like, LOD and stuff, so... Okay, well, let's try plus 100, I guess. Or plus 98. Because we're already seeing some artifacting, so this isn't super stable. Does Elpida GDDR5 on a GTX 980 suck? Not really. I mean, I'm not sure if it scales with voltage, but at, like, stock voltages, it does 2120, which is, like, way more than I thought it would. I was really worried that it would stop below 2 gigahertz. Because that's like, you know, like, honestly, I was surprised you could have Elpida memory on a GTX 980. I was like, how is this even reaching the stock memory clock? But as it turns out, 4 gigabit Elpida is very different from 2 gigabit Elpida. The thing I'm wondering about is I think earlier in the stream, it crashed when I raised the voltage too much, so it might have negative voltage scaling past a certain point. And that point might be kind of early. But right now I'm like maxing out the core. I really want to see this thing on the oscilloscope because it's like a Hall of Fame. I also have a Zotac 980 with, I think, Hynix memory. I have the like Amp Extreme Zotac 980 with the 3 power boost modules. It's also really dusty. That's like the main reason I haven't like run it yet is like, well, I checked if it works, but like I haven't gotten around to cleaning it because that thing is absolutely disgusting. This thing, on the other hand, was actually like evidently somebody tried to do maintenance on it before me. With questionable maintenance practices. I don't know what that brown thing is, but this ain't thermal putty. Oh, I lost the VRM photo. There. Yeah. Please don't use thermal paste for your VRM cooling. You know, like, I know it looks like thermal putty, but I can assure you, it is not thermal putty. Do not try to use it like thermal putty. Also, this thing is... if you weren't here at the start of the stream, I introduced the card, but, like, there's a crack in the PCIe slot. Bendy. I mean, you can't really tell from this angle, but the backplate is straight. The PCB isn't. Luckily, the card is fine, because basically all of the bending, like the worst of the bending happens right in this area, and there's no memory chips there. So, yeah. It does work. Like, to my great surprise, like, I just cleaned the card and it works. I was really expecting that there'd be, like, broken memory chips and stuff, but nope, it just works. Just needed a clean. From things like this right here. I paid, like, 25 quid. It was, like, 21, and then the shipping on top of that, so... really not bad, considering that, like, there's 980 Hall of Fames getting listed on UK eBay for, like, 100 quid. And I am almost stupid enough to go for that. Anyway, 15451. Okay, so evidently this scales way more with core clock than it does with memory, but I think it's gonna crash soon. Because we're hitting 1515. Max GPU temperature so far is 56. We're not even at 100% fan speed. This heatsink is ridiculous, man. It's like it's huge. It's like a 980 Ti heatsink. Also, I gotta say, like 700 series, 900 series Hall of Fame cards, best looking heatsinks. I think I kind of prefer the 700 series one. It's a bit weirder looking in a way, but like I really like the look of it. Let me just pull it up. GTX 780. Man, I wish the Elpida memory chips on my Hall of Fame 780 were this good, because those suck. Those are absolutely freaking horrendous. Anyway, yeah, so big fan of this heatsink design. Actually, I just generally seem to have a thing for like big 2-fan heatsinks. I've realized over the years. Like I also like the Sapphire Vapor X heatsinks, the 2-fan ones. The 3-fan ones, they're fine. But yeah, prefer the 2 fans. So, also the Hall of Fame. Oh yeah, also this is when they were using the yellow tantalum polymers on the 780 Hall of Fame. Because, you know, fancy looking polymer capacitors. Actually, I can probably pull up the score, because I did post my score with this card, and it's depressing. The memory is so bad. I don't think I think I ran Vantage on it, and it was just, like, awful. I'm probably not even in the top 50. Oh. That memory clock. But apparently I made it into the top 50. Probably because it was getting hard carried by the 7940X. Also, did I seriously max out a 1280 core? What kind of pathetic core clock is this? Oh, 65.5. Oh, it's so bad. Oh man, I forgot how bad that thing is. I'm relatively certain I'm running like 1.35 volts for that. Or maybe even more. Oh, wait, no, it's saying 1.3. So maybe not 1.35. But yeah, this card, like, it's so bad. It's just so freaking bad. No, if you push a lot of voltage, you should be able to do like 14. Yeah, I mean that is actually really high. That's like what I would expect from a GTX 680, like low 1400s. But yeah, with enough cooling and enough voltage, a Kepler card should comfortably do over 1300. And then there's my GTX 780, which just won't. Because it's like, oh man, and it's a Hall of Fame, and it's so bad. Actually, it might not even scale. That's like the really, like, sometimes you'll get Kepler cards that are like, they also don't even scale with voltage that much. It's not as common as Maxwell cards. Like, there's a lot of Maxwell cards where, like, they do not scale past 1.22 at all. Like, no amount of voltage is going to make them go any faster. With Kepler cards, you might run into that as you approach 1.4 volts, rather than like right out of the gate at 1.2. But yeah, man, that's 780. At least it looks cool, even if it doesn't run very good. Anyway, we're gonna try 1110 now, aren't we? I mean, plus 110 on the core. Well, 1400 on LN2. Nah, on LN2, 1400 is really low for Kepler. I've done 1400 on air cooling with a GTX 770. But for 780s, like, Vantage is actually one of the longest. Okay, well, first watch this, because I think it's about to crash. How old am I? 26, but gonna be 27 this year. Like, if you're on stock voltage, yeah, you'll max out at like 1200-ish, but if you have voltage control, you should be maxing out like well over 1300. Unless your card is trash. Are you into football? No. I'm not into any kind of team sports. The fastest way to make an activity worse is adding people to it. What would you recommend for a decent pairing with a 10600K? I mean, 10600Ks are decently fast, so like... Like a... Well, it depends on what your budget. So, I don't know, like an RX 6600 or something like that? What about tennis? Oh man, my parents, like, forced me to play tennis throughout, like, middle school and high school, and, like, nope. I mean, I did it anyway, but I never enjoyed it. Man, I can't believe this is passing. Can you speak Czech? Yeah. Biggest percentage increase in GPU performance you saw from overclocking? If you get a reference HD 7950. Those can pick up like over 30%. Easy. Because they come stock at like 800 megahertz. So it's kind of cheating. Like, if you want to see big gains, you find the lowest clocked version of a core that is known to clock high. Yeah, but Kepler isn't really clocked very low to begin with. $6900 XT, by modern standards, I guess, but compared to some of the old GPUs, like, not really. What? Kepler runs at like a gigahertz or 1100 out of the box. Dude, you can't even read freaking spec sheets, man. How did... And then... where... Yeah, so it runs a little over a gigahertz. Man, we don't have the... Yeah, we don't have the frequency charts that we had for the old cards. Oh, well. I mean, for the newer cards. Because that was when, like, Boost got introduced, right? So... Anyway, so this keeps running. And we just passed at... Oh, that's still 1515. Oh, I didn't apply the plus 110, I think. Let me just check. Oh yeah, I didn't apply the plus 110. Now we're going to try 1527. I think that's actually going to crash, because it's already artifacting a bunch. Yeah, GTX 480s like scale a lot. Are you a movie fan? No, not really. I mainly read like a bunch of manga. That's kind of it. Oh yeah, the 980 Ti does run a little under a gigahertz. I mean 780 Ti. Wait, I did say 780 Ti. Well, yeah, because the 780 Ti like chugs power because it's huge. Anyway, so that finally crashed. So I guess now we get to find out if the Hall of Fame NVDD tool actually helps. Wait, this. Oh no, this one was the one that was like bugging out, right? So we want this one. Wait, is this gonna conflict with... Okay, that did raise the voltage. My main concern is, like, is it gonna fight with Afterburner? Because that's always the fun part with these utilities. Okay, the voltage increase is still there. And I'm actually going to drop the core clock back down to plus 98. Which... Because the thing with these NVIDIA cards is, like, I am not sure if we're going to get, like, less stability. Yeah, so that's back down to 1515. So I don't want the, like, core getting... Because it might, like, score higher just because of the extra voltage, because of less clock stretching. But it might also get, like, way less stable. Throttle DDR5 on 70 or 80C? How is your DDR5 getting that hot? Vega 6456? I already did a 64 live stream. Does Maxwell actually clock stretch? Yes. Even Kepler does. Worst overclocking card ever? No. The AMD GPUs which have literal clock limits. The Fury Non-X has more overclocking headroom than a Fury X. And has more, you can mod the BIOS on it, way more than you can on, like, most modern AMD GPUs. I think, like, 6500 XT might be the worst. Did you flash the XOC BIOS? No. I think that one's supposed to remove the clock stretching, right? I'm not sure that that's even necessarily a good thing, though. Because on, like, one hand, it's like, oh yeah, the clock stretching means that, like, instead of crashing outright, you first, like, start losing performance or something. But then the flip side to that is like, yeah, but what if the clock stretching actually lets you pass at higher, like, settings than a no stretching BIOS? So yeah, that extra voltage just made it less stable, to my complete lack of surprise. I'm pretty sure the LC Vega had to be a better bin because a lot of regular Vegas won't run the stock configuration of the LC BIOS. I think that score is about the same. Yeah, but at lower clocks, isn't it? Oh wait, this is the crash. Yeah, that's the crash. Yeah, so this is like my GTX 960, where like, if I raise the voltage, it would score better at lower clocks, but it would clock so much worse that it would basically score the same. Yay. Well, in that case, I'm just going to reset the voltage controller and we're going to try push the memory more. Which album is the current song? It's from Down in the Labs. I'll just link it. It's the it's the second to last one. That's technically my first album, which is why, like, the first half of it is awful. Just absolutely horrendous. Like, I did go back and try to make the tracks better, but, like, it did not get better. There's, like, there's, like, half-decent ideas, but I never managed to flesh them out, so... That's a lot of, actually, kind of the issues with my music, I think. It's like, I'll have, like, one good idea for a riff, and then it's like, well, now we need, like, 3 more minutes of sound around it. What do we do? I think my CPU overclock is a bit on edge. Because 3D Mark's, like, system info scan is actually, like, the heaviest CPU test. So, like, the CPU settings that work just fine for, like, TimeSpy or Firestrike will not necessarily get through system info. Which is fun. Okay. Well, I guess we should check that everything still works correctly, right? Before I start trying to raise the memory voltage. That's the wrong benchmark. Oh, whoa, I could have LN2 on Wednesday. Well, that's a bit of an issue. I wasn't expecting it to show up that fast. Muse Pi Prime 2 billion DDR3 score? No. Wait, why is it scoring lower? Oh, because it's at plus 86. Right, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Let me check. Damn. $29.40 at CL6. What, Quick New was on break? Nah, Pi Prime is memory limited. Didn't sub anything for the past 2 years. Oh, so, yeah. Yeah, that is one hell of a way to return. Okay, let's try a bit more memory voltage. Thinking we're gonna just start with like plus 60? Well. Okay, that worked. Like, I am running the core a little low, because, you know, I want to make sure it's the memory crashing, not the core. Though, Maxwell has been very consistent for short runs about when the core crashes, so... Also, I do plan to, like, once I run out of the 60 liters that I'm buying, like, getting this Wednesday, I plan to, like, order more. Like, as soon as I run out. Because, yeah, it is honestly kind of pathetic that I have like 130 liters worth of doers, and I haven't run any LN2 in like 2 years, I think. I think we're about to find out that Elpida doesn't scale. Which would be very sad. Though, I do have another broken GTX 970 FTW that I could steal Samsung memory chips from. The memory... No, so the issue with the 500 megabytes is that one of the memory chips on a GTX 970 is only accessible, like, alone. Because of the way the memory controller on that card works. If you want to access the last, like, one... Basically, you have full bandwidth for 7 or... The card can... Oh, this is awkward to explain. It doesn't matter what PCB we look at. But basically the problem is that you have 8 memory chips on a GTX 970, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can access 7 of these at the same time, and then one of them, and I don't know which one, it kind of doesn't matter, one of them is only accessible on its own. So you can write to like 7 chips at the same time, or read from 7 chips at the same time. But if you want to read from the very, like, the 8th one, yeah, you can only do that on the 8th one alone. Oh, I didn't actually pull up the picture. It doesn't matter. But GTX 970s have 8 memory chips. You can only access 7 of them at the same time. And then the last one is, like, spillover. Yeah, the chips are all the same. Well, that passed, but I tanked the score. Oh, yeah, because it, like, reset itself. What the hell? Oh, it, like, completely reset itself. Oh, and the Hall of Fame NVDD tool doesn't work anymore. That's great. Didn't Gigabyte have a bunch of water blocks that were like aluminum on the inside when they were supposed to be copper? Or was it like they did some crappy nickel plating on aluminum? How's it going? I am finding out that Elpida memory clocks pretty high at stock voltage and seemingly doesn't scale at all. which is interesting. Almost makes me wonder if it might not benefit from getting slightly undervolted. Because there's like Hynix GDDR6 that's like that, where it like clocks better if you run it at 1.25 instead of 1.35. Because like it doesn't make sense to me. I guess it could be a timing limit. Though if it's a timing limit, I might be able to just blow past it if I just set the clock super high. That's the wrong app. Okay, so we're at 1.72 on the memory now. Yeah, I guess we'll just try blow past it. I'll just go all the way to 800. It hasn't frozen yet. Can we even run the render test? No. What is the yeah, I'm checking it with a multimeter. Unless Afterburner resets it when I hit apply on Afterburner. No, it definitely applies the memory voltage. It doesn't apply core voltage. And I don't even want to apply core voltage. That's why I'm using the other, like this NVDD. I don't know why Afterburner would be resetting the memory voltage, though. That doesn't really make any sense. Okay, let's try plus 100. So that's 1.65. Yeah, it's still at 1.65, so it really just doesn't scale, like, at all. Apparently. So now we're at 1.75. I mean, it's not rolling over yet, so I guess that's something. Okay, so plus 819 is just not gonna happen. Cool. So Elpida memory is probably terrible for LN. Actually, it might be fine. Because as far as I know, the problem with the Hynix memory chips for LN2 is that they just straight up break above 1.7. Like, not die, but they get like super unstable if you set the voltage too high. And to run Maxwell on LN2, you need like really high memory voltage. Because the memory, like otherwise the memory controller gets upset. So you need basically memory chips that can tolerate very high voltages. Mainly just so that the memory controller functions properly at very low temperatures. So that's fun. Okay, actually, so all of the, like, voltage tools are just utterly useless. So at this point, all that's left to do is LOD. LOD. Replay mode all. Where's my replay mode all? There we go. And then LOD. Because the last thing I want to see in my graphics benchmark is textures. I mean, the nice thing about, like, you know, I guess the nice thing about the Maxwell GPUs sometimes is, like, you don't have to do anything. They, like, whatever they do on it, like, air cooling is whatever they do. You don't have to worry about any mods or silliness, like, oh, it maxes out at, like, plus 98 and plus 720, and that's what it maxes out at. Oh wait, it was 739. Well, at least this gives me plenty of time to try figure out why I'm so bad at Firestrike on NVIDIA GPUs. So we can test all of the LOD settings. There's going to be a whole lot of this. Man, and I was getting all like I was already like thinking about maybe adding capacitors to the memory power delivery, but that's probably pretty pointless if these memory chips don't scale with voltage, unless they scale negatively. So I might actually try undervolting the memory a little bit. I don't think it's very likely that there's a GDDR5 memory chip that clocks stupid high at 1.35 volts, because that would just be dumb. But maybe it runs better at 1.5 instead of 1.55. Yeah, I mean, I don't expect it to make much of a difference either. Like, I'm gonna check if it I'm gonna check if undervolting does anything first, rather than capacitors. If undervolting does nothing, then I'm not doing any capacitors, because Like, cap mods are basically like volt mods, just like more tedious and less effective. Unless the capacitors on the card got roasted for some reason. Man, I am really, really terrible at this whole, like, NVIDIA GPU overclocking thing. I turn LOD on and it raises the score by, like, 400 points. You gotta be kidding me. I mean, that's already on high performance. I mean, maybe the Elpida memory chips are just, like, awful with timings, so, like, clock for clock, they're way worse. Man, SLDKGH, nobody cares. Yeah, well, we don't. He keeps complaining that you blocked him. I don't know why he thinks anybody cares that you got blocked by some random edgelord on the internet. I mean, Wasp Machine, is that inaccurate when you got banned from the Discord? For being an edgelord? Or basically being an edgelord? Okay, so is my, like, LOD setting too high? The nice thing is the score literally didn't change, so it's very consistent. That's good. Best for testing? If you're like if you're doing like a daily overclock, I would just stress test with whatever games you actually play. Man, why can't my community just be normal? Or actually not normal, but like at least mentally stable. AMD CPU skill issue. So funny story about that, Sebi. The last time I said to myself AMD CPU skill issue, I moved the GPU to an Intel system and got the exact same garbage scores. So, no, it's not a CPU issue, it's a me issue. Because I already tried that with the GTX 570. I was like, man, this GTX 570, like, not scoring too good on this AMD CPU, so I moved it to an Intel. It scored exactly the same. I mean, maybe with something more modern, it might make more of a difference, but I kind of doubt it. No, but, like, you know, I don't annoy other people with my mental issues. But... like, my view on it is, like, if you tune into one of the depression streams I occasionally have, you're there for a depression stream, so, like, you know, it's different when you go into somebody else's life. Like, if I was complaining about how depressed I am in somebody's chat, that, I would say, would be bothering people who have no interest in listening to how depressed I am, or whatever, right? Whereas if I have a live stream where I'm just being depressed, well, people can just leave, right? But if you do it on somebody else's stream in the chat, you're bothering people who are watching that stream. They don't want to read your fucking depression posts. $12-volt RGB on Gigabyte? I don't know why it would be broken, but... yeah, if you want to bother strangers with your depression, like, well, you could make your own depression stream, or you can get a Tumblr. No, I'm not saying you're making anybody depressed. I'm just saying it's annoying. How did I... I didn't until you just announced it. No, you don't all have to be friends, but you can like, you can just ignore each other. You know, like a bunch of socially awkward strangers in a room. Don't make eye contact, don't talk to people, and definitely don't make physical contact with anyone. Like, that's also a completely valid way of, you know, interacting with the live stream. Not interacting with it. Or, like, not interacting with the other people in chat, right? Because you don't know. Maybe they don't want to interact with you. So yeah, you don't have to be friends, but you shouldn't, like, post complaints about other people in chat. Or, like, have... Well, I mean, depends on what kind of argument you have. If you have a stupid argument, then don't. If you have, like, a intelligent argument, and there's not many of those, but they do exist, then sure, you can have your argument if it leads to some, like, new information being gained. VZ has long hair. Yup, it's, like, well past my shoulders. I think I'm going to try run the card a little bit slower for the LOD testing, because we don't really need it crashing all the damn time. I might run it without GPU-Z. So far, the worst thing I've done to my long hair is, well, there's sort of two annoyances. When I, like, sometimes it'll get, like, caught between my back and the back of a chair, or my back and, like, the bed, right, if I'm laying on my back, and then it's like, I want to move my head, but I can't, because my hair is, like, restraining me with my own body weight. But no, like, other than that, it occasionally gets caught in the soldering iron, which is why I now tie it in a ponytail if I'm doing any soldering. And occasionally it also gets dunked in thermal paste, because, like, you know, you'll take a card apart. Like, I'll take a card apart, and then I'll lean in to take a look at the PCB, and bam, my hair goes in the thermal paste. That's actually way worse than hair going into soldering iron, because burnt, like, yeah, you know, hair melting on a soldering iron doesn't smell particularly good, but at least it doesn't get thermal paste freaking everywhere. Can you grow a beard? Yes, but it's not good. Like, I can't be bothered to shave, so technically I kind of have a beard, but it's, like, not very thick. Yeah. Down to your waist? Yeah, okay, I don't think I could live with it that long. Like, mine is, like, slightly past my shoulder blades, and, like, at this length, it's, like, I've been considering shortening it again. Because, yeah, it's been a long time since I last shortened it. Because, yeah, like, there's already been one occasion where it got so long that I got really annoyed with the whole, like, oh, I go, like, especially getting, like, my hair caught when, like, sleeping in bed, and then not being able to move my head. So, yeah, I've, like, shortened it in the past, where I'll just, like, bend over forward, grab all of my hair, and then just go at it with the scissors, and then fiddle with it until it doesn't look like it's been just cut straight with scissors. I kind of wish I could just cut it straight with scissors and just not care, but, like, it would look stupid, I guess. Okay, so that seems to be slower. So maybe more LOD? Like, it's at 18. What about at, like... Wait, no, that's hex, isn't it? Oh, maybe it's not hex. Oh, wait, no, it is. Is it? Ah, hell, let's try 32. What LOD bias does, it blurs the textures. And the more of it, like, the higher the value, the more it blurs the textures. As you can see from the fact that we can't see anything now. It looks less bad in some other benchmarks. The thing is, Firestrike uses, I guess, like a full... like a texture to apply some kind of post-processing to the entire frame. And that just, yeah, that does this, basically. That just blurs everything to hell. No, performance goes up. You get, like, yeah, you get more frames. Some benchmarks are affected by it more than others, like superposition is, like, superposition, you can set the LOD, like, to absolutely stupid numbers to get, like, more performance out of it. Now, it's not allowed for all benchmarks. Like, the reason it's allowed for Firestrike is that when Firestrike came out, there wasn't any way to detect it, right? So all of the old scores for Firestrike, all of the old world records were done with, like, LOD tweaks. And the same is true for a lot of the old 3D marks, is like everybody just ran them with LOD tweaks because there was no way to prove that you didn't run it with a LOD tweak, right? And so, yeah, but with the Time Spy actually has detection for the LOD tweak, so you can't run Time Spy with it. You can't run, like, basically everything newer than Time Spy will, well, not Unigen benchmarks, but the 3D marks that are newer than Time Spy, they'll detect LOD and you'll get, well, your score will get removed. And the same is true with tessellation. Like for Firestrike, if you're on an AMD GPU, you can disable tessellation and it gives a huge performance boost. As well as for like 3D Mark 11, it helps, and that's it actually. Yeah, 3D Mark 11, it helps, Firestrike, it helps, and then before that, tessellation wasn't really a thing, so it's not really a concern. Oh, Unigen, it helps. But yeah, so for those you can disable, with AMD you can disable tessellation for like Firestrike, Unigen, 3D Mark 11, and with NVIDIA you do LOD. And on AMD, on DirectX 9 and older, you can also do LOD. This is worse. Oh yeah, Heaven also benefits from LOD, but that's mainly like a like an NVIDIA versus AMD difference. I guess if you're running Heaven DirectX 9, then LOD on AMD is an option. That sounds like a cheat? Yeah, because it basically is. Except when everybody's cheating, it just becomes part of the rules. Well, that's a memory crash. That's annoying. What? No, I need physics. There's like a multi-core component to the test, so... Really, the best CPU for this would be the 14900K, but I really hate the 14, or like any 13, like 8 plus 16 Intel. But I hate E-cores, so... Yeah, and just Z790 in general. Yeah, 10900K and the 10980XE are like the last good Intel CPUs, and from there, everything went downhill. Oh no, I don't know why I autopiloted into hardware info. How often do you kill Windows while overclocking benchmarking? Like break the OS? Not that often. Like, I never broke a Windows 7 install. Not through, like, instability. Windows 10, yeah. I've managed to break Windows 10 with memory overclocks, but Windows 7 was just bomb-proof. The only way I've ever broken that one was, like, messing with drivers and stuff. You know, if you just had 12 P-cores, you could dedicate one of your P-cores to the background tasks, and it would be functionally the same as having E-cores. Does SMT make a difference for Firestrike? Yes. Without SMT, it would be scoring about 42,000 points. What's Atlas OS? Like, the thing is, I really don't like the, like, software tweaking side of overclocking. Like, I've always just found that a massive annoyance, because it's like, I just want to know if the damn card is fast. I don't care if the OS is fast. Can't you just flash the BIOS to undo the corruption? Okay, so this is by far the slowest setup so far. Well, I want to go back to +3. Just use the, like, hardware BIOS flashback button. As long as the BIOS file is named correctly, the hardware flashback should flash whatever BIOS you give it. Because it's a bit brain dead. Which also means that if you give it the wrong BIOS with the right name, it'll also try to flash that. Wait, how do you know it's reading and then gets stuck? Use an SPI flasher? Oh, you do? Why don't you just buy a CPU that doesn't need software to work correctly? It's like, of all the things that, like, we're gonna be fixing is Intel's janky CPU architecture instead of, I don't know, fixing something actually cool like multi-GPU. Right? Like, we ditched multi-GPU because software developers couldn't be bothered to support it, but now we're gonna bend over backwards for Intel's error cores. LOD? It actually kind of does. Or, well, like, it makes it more... it can make certain benchmarks actually more difficult to run. As in, like, the stability gets worse when you do LOD. But it depends on the GPU as to how, like, significant that effect is. As far as I know, LOD is mostly benchmark dependent as to what the optimal level is, but I'm evidently not good at this. Yeah, but you shouldn't buy a dual CCD Ryzen either. It's like, unless you need massive amounts of multi-threaded performance, I see absolutely no reason to have a CPU with either a second CCD or error cores. Like, the dual CCD CPUs made sense when, like, individual cores were, and actually, like, even the 3950X didn't really make a ton of sense as a gaming CPU. Like, if you bought a 3950X for gaming, you're dumb. If you bought a 5950X for gaming, you're also dumb. If you bought a 7950X for gaming, guess what? You're dumb. You buy a 7950X 3D for gaming. Still dumb. 7950X 3D, yeah, the dual CCD X3D chips have the extra cache only on one of the CCDs. As far as I know, the Intel, yeah, 5900X is like uber dumb. The 12-core Ryzen chips are like they're not good. In any, like, there is no scenario, like, as a gaming CPU, it's like, oh, it's like worse than the 8-core, generally speaking. And as a productivity CPU, I guess if you're on a budget, it can make sense, right? Like, if you really can't afford the 16-core, then sure, go for the 7900X or whatever. But it's like, if you're building a gaming system, dumb. So this is like marginally slower, I guess. $3,900X because editing transcoding for me is a hobby, not paid. Yeah, in that scenario, it makes sense. Like, I daily to 3950X because, like, for video encoding. But, like, I switched from a 3950X to a 7800X 3D because at the 7800X 3D is so much faster per core that even though it only has 8 cores, the thing is I also ran the 3950X without SMT because, like, I didn't need that much multi-threaded performance. Like, I needed some. I didn't need all of it. So I ran it without SMT to get slightly higher clocks and also to help the scheduling a bit. Anyway, the 7800X 3D delivers literally the same, like, actually, it's basically the same multi-threaded performance as my old 3950X setup did. But with, like, way more single-threaded performance. So it's like, great, I don't need a 16-core anymore because one modern core is, like, almost 2 old cores. And actually, for something like a 1950X, that might actually be true, right? The old, like, the first-gen 16-core Threadrippers. Actually, what does a 1950X do in a Cinebench? Like, that could be kind of fun to take a look. 1950X versus 7800X 3D in Cinebench. It was a 16-core, right? I'm not... Yeah, it was a 16-core. Oh, wait, what? And it was slow. Wait, what? Did nobody bench these? Seriously? Oh, right. It only, like, R20 wasn't relevant at the time. Well, that gives us a nice, relevant, like, comparable score for the 7800X 3D. Anyway, I'm looking up the 7800X 3D score now. Yeah, so 7800X 3D versus 1950X, right? So this is the 1950X. Top score 8174 at 4.2 gigahertz, right? 16-core CPU, very slow. 7800X 3D, 8,121 points. 8-core CPU, but the cores are really fast. So yeah, and if you look at, like, stock 1950X, it's, like, down all the way to 6,000. So basically, a 7800X 3D has the multi-threaded performance of, like, a 1950X, right? And depending on what you're doing, it's like, well, that's more than enough multi-threaded performance for me. Yeah, I know R20 and 23 came out later. You do realize that the highest heat density CPU currently available is the 7700X, and it's not monolithic at all. Like, peak thermal density 7700X is way worse than Intel's monolithic abominations. Which is why Intel CPUs still scale with voltage at like over 100 degrees operating temperature, but Ryzen chips roll over at like 80. So, chiplets don't really do anything for the thermal density of the individual cores. And AMD is well into the territory of, like, individual cores are uncoolable. Why is Ryzen, like, loves memory frequency? Because AMD's memory controller is really, 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 really bad at being a memory controller. Like, there's a lot of fancy, like, scheduling tricks that a memory controller can do and, like, data organization to try minimize memory latency. And AMD's memory controller just isn't very good at doing that. So it needs more, it gains more performance because it just needs more gigahertz to do the same amount of work that an Intel memory controller can do. Like, basically you can think of it as, like, memory controller instructions per clock. Because that's the thing is, like, yeah, you have out-of-order execution inside the CPU cores where, like, the CPU will rearrange instructions to get them done more quickly. But similarly, the memory controller can try predict what the CPU is going to ask for and try to organize the data so that it's more easily, like, accessible. And the better your memory controller is at that, the, like, less bound by memory performance you get, or by memory clock you get. What was spread? What? Intel has never scaled with memory speed that much. Like, if you run a Ryzen at JEDEC, it runs way worse than an Intel CPU at JEDEC. $10900K did hugely. From like 2666 to 4400? They had even less cache. But the memory control... Yeah, but AMD's cache was... Like, AMD's cores were... I don't remember ever having, like, great memory scale. Then again, I mainly ran Intel HEDT, so... But, like, absolute performance... Like, with AMD, you need 50-60% in some games. Wait, do you have benchmarks of that? Because that's literally the first time I'm hearing of scaling that high. Though you're also kind of like doubling the memory clock, so... Man, I'm kind of bored of this. But I wanna see, like, evidence for 10th gen scaling like crazy with memory performance. 8000 1-to-1? Oh no, there's no way. I'd be very surprised if the new Ryzen's clock memory even remotely better. Like, if maybe they'll be slightly more likely to do 6400. Because I can't see any way that AMD is redesigning the memory controller when they don't have to. And if AMD felt like Ryzen needs more memory speed, they could have already done something with they could have already done more for the 7000 series than they did. Like, the memory system on the 7000 series is atrocious. You know, I don't really feel like messing with LOD more, so... Unnerf their chipset? What? Does that even matter? Like... Anyway, I think I'm going to end the stream here. Because, yeah, I have other things I want to get done today. Like, I have a video that's not progressing very well. So I guess, thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, leave any comments, questions. Oh, wait, no, it's a stream. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for any... Oh, I didn't miss any super chats because there weren't any. Thanks, guys. Oh, right, LN2 stream. It's not going to be on Wednesday because I haven't figured out what I want to run first. It'll maybe... I'm thinking GTX 970 or GTX 570. Anyway, so you have that to look forward to, I guess. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.